So when I've heard you talk about college, it seems like you didn't really care for school or respect the university experience. Almost like it was a waste of time or a means to an end. So
It
why
was.
go to college? Like why not move to New York or something and pursue a career in hip hop directly at that time?
Right. Well, the pathway where I came from is from high school, you go to college or you're a loser. And it's also the first time I was ever living outside of my town. I had things to figure out. I had things to explore. And it was cool being in a different environment of people. It was cool being around people who loved hip hop and rapped and to meet DJs. But I did kind of despise the schooling experience, the actual classes and having to memorize stuff. And I wasn't, like I thought maybe I could write for a newspaper. I really wanted to write for The Source. I wanted to be a hip hop journalist if I couldn't be a hip hop artist. So by the time I graduated Dean College with my associates in communications, I felt like I've got nothing to go on with this, really. Like, I'm not going to go to town hall meetings and be an intern and take notes. I'm just not going to do that. So what you just mentioned is what I did. I attempted to move to New York City. And this was in 96. So after the big breakup and I was like going through all these life changes, a friend of mine from Dean College was staying at Columbia University. And he offered to let me stay with him for free for the summer. So I went there and, oh man, I remember the first time I got out of the cab after like taking the train, the first fucking person that I saw was Mike D of the Beastie Boys in the street entering a cab. I had a very intensive Beastie Boys period where I fanboyed the fuck out from, License to Ill, but more Paul's Boutique. And I wanted to learn everything about these guys. And like, I wasn't really a Mike D guy. I was an ad rock dude, mostly. Like that was my hero of the Beastie Boys. But holy shit. I mean, I was starstruck. And I go, yo, I was like, hey, I just want you to know, I just moved here from Rhode Island, like right now. And I'm looking to like get involved in, in any kind of like hip hop stuff. And he goes, oh, yo, you should, check out Fat Beats Records. And, yeah. All right, good luck. And then he got in his cab and drove away. But, anyways, I bumped into a lot of interesting people during my time in 1996. It was like, it could be a movie, the way it all played out. 'Cause I would walk the streets, look for cyphers.
Wait, which part of New York are we talking about? Because you lived in Brooklyn for a while too, didn't you?
Yes. Well, so this was in Manhattan.
Uh-huh.
So I would look for ciphers at nighttime. I walk randomly. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I am. And I would find a couple here and there. And then I joined one. It was like a lot of rappers in a circle and we're all doing it. Like this was a thing back then. You don't see it anymore because like smartphones killed that whole culture. People didn't really want everything that they said in a freestyle to be recorded and put online forever. Cause you could be, you could say something really dumb and like get dismissed forever because of that. But yeah, and one of them I was rapping with Breeze Evahflowin, who's an MC from out there who ended up doing like bigger battles. Like he was on TRL battles or whatever they did with Carson Daly. Does that sound familiar? Did Carson Daly? Yeah, he did TRL freestyle battles after, like when things got really big with the battle scene.
I think you're talking about when MTV had the MC battle.
Yeah. Yeah, like a live.
Yeah, yeah.
So he was on that. He did really well on that. But anyways, we connected and we exchanged numbers. And then I saw him in 1999 at the Boston Bowl battle. That's the next time I saw him. The Super Bowl battle in Boston.
Right.
And he looked at me and he was like, yo, and he said my name. I was like, holy shit. You remember me from like that 30-second freestyle in Manhattan in 1996? It just was like, that was so cool. Like so many things like that happened while I was in New York, where I met a lot of like people who I would end up like working with or knowing later on down the line through a different context. But nothing ended up happening with that. I had a few like odd jobs. I couldn't really hold anything down.
Wait, was this when you were working for Ben and Jerry's for like 6 months trying to pay off your student loans?
Oh, I didn't pay off my student loans. I paid off my first MPC with that money. So, but that was in 1999. Yeah. But once I toured heavy, the first time I came into actual money, the first thing it went to was my student loans. I just wanted, and you know, what's funny about that is it hurt my credit. If you pay off your student loans in one big bulk, your credit gets affected in a negative way, which is
ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just another sign that we live in the most bullshit society, rigged society.
Exactly.
But,
wait, so when you were already in Massachusetts at the time and everything, right? You never ran across Dave Mays or Benzino or anything to try to go work for the Source magazine?
No, and only in New York. I met one of their top writers, and he gave me his card. I still have it.
Who?
I think Byron something, I believe. I can't remember it now. That was in 1996, and I do have the card somewhere, so I'll dig it up. But I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to get any ins. I didn't know how to like really present myself. I hadn't written. I just, I went to college and they didn't teach me shit. That's how it was. I knew like the basics of the most basic shit. Not how to submit material of mine to a publication I want to work for.
It's not stuff that they don't teach you how to apply it in the real field. You know what I mean? Like it's just like kind of like just the book knowledge. That's it.
Yeah, that is pretty much what it was. But I did, and I was also trying to get discovered. So I'm not trying to lock myself into a career that's not hip hop at the time. I'm like, all right, I'm out of college. I got a little bit of wiggle room right here. Let me see if I can make anything happen. And nothing really blossomed from that. So I ended up going back home, took a year off, worked, delivered newspapers for a year, actually working under my stepfather. Wrote a lot, recorded a lot, and a lot of this material ended up being on mixtapes that came out later on. And then I went to URI because we first started going to the radio station. That's where 90.3 WRIU would have a 3-hour hip hop show every weekday, which was huge. And so in 97, 98, 99, this is where a lot of people are getting their hip hop. This is where you first hear songs for the first time and the only place you can hear certain songs. So we're driving about an hour to the radio station, going to the studio and just like asking if we can freestyle. So at the time I was rocking with a crew called Clockworks. That's AMS One, Fest One, Orator, DJ Orator, this kid named Products, kid named Vocab. And we would just infiltrate the studio. And I would go there so often that eventually they gave me my own show, even though I wasn't a student there. That's how much I bugged them and how much I just stayed in that studio. Cause I also would use it to record myself. So if you freestyle or if you perform a verse on the air, you get a good quality recording out of that, like better than I got anywhere else. So that's what I would constantly do. And that's why a lot of those things ended up on my mixtapes. So then eventually I did, enroll there as a student just so I could make everything official. And, I did it mostly for the radio station. I started working with, different producers. Joe Beats just started to learn how to produce. So we formed the group called Nonprofits. But Nonprofits wasn't just supposed to be me and Joe Beats. It was supposed to be a bunch of different people. It was supposed to be a crew. But it turns out I was like the only reliable rapper in my crew. Honestly, which is sad because there was a lot of talent. Like, I feel like we gave Boston a run for their money. We would often go to Boston and hit up the battles and open mics and rip shit. And they would want to look at us like the little brother, the way New York looks at Boston. So Boston wants us to be their little brother, but we were holding our own. And that's why it was a big deal in 1999 when I won the Superbowl battle. Cause it was like this Rhode Island spoken word kid came into your house and beat all the MCs that have vinyl out. That's, big deal. That was a big deal.
Let's go into that, right? So 1999 Super Bowl MC battle in Boston. You end up battling Esoteric. Now, this is like an epic battle. Like, talk to us about that.
Well, we had previously had mini beef from my radio show because I was a shit talker. Like, I loved getting people's goats. I loved getting people riled up. Part of me didn't believe a lot of people were listening to my show, but it turns out it had a cult following that just grew and grew and grew because I would talk so much shit, but also play the illest shit. And I would also rap live on the air, and have crazy interviews with people. So it became an event of sorts. So I actually don't know if I said anything specific about Esoteric. I think someone prank called my show and said they were esoterodactyl. So maybe I said something off color on the air about it. But he ran with a couple people who antagonized me frequently. So it was clear that we were not buddies. But I tried to interview him on my show. He wouldn't do it. I emailed him. I'm like, hey, we're doing a lot of stuff over here. I was like, let's do something. He's like, what do you mean build? What are we going to build? I was like, all right, fuck it. So that was that, like that's the vibe I got. I was like, he's not trying to hear anything from this white kid from Providence. So when the Boston battle happened, I knew all his material. I played his stuff on my radio show. One of my best friends went to school with Esoteric. So I had way more information on him than he had on me. He could only deal with generic information when it came to me. I was able to rattle off a lot of various shit, which gave me the advantage in a weird way. Even though he was the bigger artist, even though he had more fans, even though this was in Boston, I think Boston can appreciate an underdog. Boston can appreciate like the underdog coming up and like showing off and doing his thing. But it was the Esoteric battle. I mean, I've also battled Acrobatic. Acrobatic is an incredible freestyle MC, an incredible MC in general.
Right. Before we get into Acrobatic, though, because the Esoteric battle, right? You guys go 2 rounds, and then they bring you back for another one, right?
It might have been 3 rounds and then like an acapella ending. I can't remember now.
Well,
but it felt forever.
Yeah, it was like it was pretty. Like it's crazy because like. People that have watched that battle, not in its entirety with like the other battles, before, after, like the whole video, they think that that's the finals.
Right.
But it wasn't the finals, but it was like on that kind of level of energy. Like the competitive nature between you guys was on that kind of level where it seemed like this is like a final match.
Yeah, totally. It really was. It really was. I was like a little yippy dog, like I was a totally different person at that time. I was very skinny. I was very energetic. I'm very yep. I'm like rattle. Like that energy exhausts me now. I look at that video. I'm like, God damn. Like, calm down, kid. But it was a very big deal for me because Mr. Liff, who I love, was in that battle. Like every Boston MC who I played on my radio show was in that battle. So at the end of that battle, the last person I faced was a guy named Alias, not the Alias from Anticon. He was in a group called OVM. He's a very talented MC. I really don't know what he's doing these days, but he ended up doing stuff at Scribble Jam. And that battle was kind of like, at that point, I think I had exhausted a lot of my motors. It was not a great battle. That's why it's not really thought of as the final battle. But when the whole thing was said and done and I won, all the MCs that were in the battle, all the Boston MCs, Rhode Island MCs, they greeted me at the stage for a big group hug. And that meant the world to me. It was almost like, all right, we accept you now. That's kind of the feeling I got.
Esoteric too? You guys watched it at that point? Everything was good?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was good, but he participated. He partook in the hug.
In the hug. We're brothers now, okay?
No, but I would see like he's a good shit talker. He's just a classic New England shit talker. So
you gotta appreciate that. That's one of your skill sets. So you gotta appreciate it too, right?
Yeah, we bust chops. That's right.
Yeah. Well, did you know if he was mad when they said that he lost to you?
I think he was in disbelief.
Oh, okay.
Like I really thought he didn't think it was even possible. So it was a big shock. Yeah. And I told him, I've actually emailed him recently in recent years. Like, yo, I just want you to know, like, I was at a great advantage in that battle. Like, I know, like, people look at that and like, oh, how did that happen? But it's like, I knew everything about you. Like, that's why I don't enter battles now. People just have way too much information on me to draw from and I don't know much about them. So I'm not going to put myself at that disadvantage for the most part.
Well, I mean, back then too, it's kind of like you gotta, about each other because the internet wasn't as big as it is now. I mean, like only a certain amount of people were really on the internet in certain communities, right? But it's like now you can find out so much just on anybody with within seconds, pretty much. Yeah. It's like before, it's like you had to be a part of the scene. You got to get like word of mouth from somebody else to get some inside scoop,
Yeah, a whole other game.
Yeah.